It was a private school, but I only went there from junior to junior.
No, I got lots of stuff. Yeah, I find that I.
Sorry, I was studying pronunciation.
Yeah. Definitely. That's why I left from my public school. It was like, it was kind of a joke. So I just, yeah,
Well, this is actually the end of one segment. That is, by now, you should be very much seasoned in the Confucian mode of thinking, especially ethics. Starting from next week, we'll begin to explore the relationship of these critical issues to the contemporary scene. One thing I will ask for your opinion, because of the size of the class, I think I would like to make a request. Instead of the final exam, we ask for a longer paper.
That's cool. Agreed. Yes.
And I don't know. I think it's possible, but I don't know if it's absolutely permissible. Yes.
Yeah.
So would the final paper thing be due on the same day as the other paper,
final.
or would it be due on the 27th that you threw out?
We have another paper due that day, the 6-page paper.
Well, the paper
Well, that's what
the paper is
you said.
relatively short, depending how many of you are graduating. I think that's the reason I want to do it early. So one thing is on the 17th, we're going to have a conference, and the conference will last for about 3 hours. And I would like to arrange it so each one of you will have a chance to give short presentations based upon what you're going to write about. And so the final papers, together with that short paper, will be due on the 27th. So after this, you should focus on all kinds of other important things. And yes.
So that means we have 2 papers due on the 27th?
Right. And one is very short. The other one should be about 12 pages. If it is long, don't try to limit to 20 pages. Don't give me a thesis for 50 or so.
Sorry, I'm just a little confused. So there'll be 4 papers total for the entire semester?
That's right. The last one will be one including of the final exam.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
And of course, this I need to make a request. And I'm relatively sure it will be all right. If it's not all right, then our final exam will be the paper anyway. So I'm still on Wang Yang, but I want to make some very general remarks, relatively short, and so we can finish the Wang Yang mode of thinking. Especially, I ask you to focus on the inquiry on the great learning, which is characterized as the possibility of embodying heaven and earth and myriad things. And I think Mr. Chen will get a chance to talk to you a little bit more about the requirements. So I don't have to repeat. Some of you can later. And to begin with, I think you're now familiar that the way of thinking is fundamentally different from many other forms of ethical reasoning or moral reasoning. The very basic is the conscious refusal, I would not say unaware, of the sharp dichotomy between A and B, which means either or thinking. If it is A, then it's not B. If it is B, then not A. And in this style of reasoning, starting from very early in great learning, the idea is that it is both A and B, and it's complementarity. The plurality is complementary. You cannot think without dichotomy. But one kind of dichotomy is exclusive. The other one is complementary. And the basic model for this is yin and yang. It's not possible to have yin without yang. Even yin may be dominating. Without yang, it's not possible to have yang without yin. There's always yin in the yang, and there's always yang in the yin. And the yin will continue to have yang. So this is the model. And if you begin self-cultivation, regulation of the family implies self-cultivation become more complicated. If you move to the governance of the nation, then both regulation of the family and self-cultivation will become complicated. And that's true all the way. So what are some of the more familiar dichotomies? Not exclusive, but complementary. One, think about root and branch in terms of the tree. Think about near and far in terms of your own effort. And always the idea is to be personal, but to be personal, not to be private. And the personal is not only what we call an existential understanding, as if you yourself, the whole person, is at stake in terms of your knowing. And knowing is necessarily a transformative act. If you know something, if it is real knowing, then yourself will be transformed. And this knowing is so generalized. It's not simply human interactions or a moral idea or aesthetic idea. It's true in terms of scientific idea as well. If you study physics, if you study computer, if you study anything and consider all natural phenomena, your studying of that subject involves more than your cognitive power. It involves your whole person. And there's no distinction, there's close relationship between what we call cognitive and affective. Affective meaning feeling and meaning and emotion. It's normative, normally we call it. And the cognitive is to understand. But since no person, this is very different from major model thinking in the modern world, no person is possible to be involved in pure thinking. Of course, we have the idea that you're able to do it in terms of pure thinking, but in fact, any form of thinking involves not only your feelings, but even in terms of your body. And to give you just an anecdote. I don't want to elaborate it. A few years ago, I went to the Samdala, which is in India, which is where the Dalai Lama resides, and with 5 leading scientists in physics, and one in relativity, one in quantum mechanics, one in astronomy, and 2 in optics. And these are really leading thinkers or leading scientists in physics. And I was the only non-physicist, but a cultural advisor, a cultural participant. We spent 5 days, each day for 5 hours, and in the private study of the Dalai Lama, and with only 2 interpreters and 3 auditors. Originally, I thought the exchange is simply the accomplished physicists would talk about their marvelous achievements with a Buddhist monk who was greatly charismatic, on the other hand, probably not well learned in some advanced scientists. But it turned out to be real interaction. Real interaction, not only they have tremendous respect for him, but intellectually, it's a real engagement. One thing relevant to our thinking is that that kind of engagement reminds all of them a very important question about a scientist. A scientist, of course, is a human. And as a human being, the modern thinking about science is that as an observer, and the observer is often an experimental. In other words, you don't not only observe, but also you design ways of observing. So you observe the phenomena and you're critically aware, they are dimension